My name is Phil Bowers. I'm the Global Marketing Communications Manager here at Grandstream. Basically, today's webinar is just going to kind of give you a quick introduction to Grandstream, run through pretty much our full line of current products, and as we go through, I'll tell you what allows some of the products to really stand out, and kind of how we position them, how we talk about them, and we'll get into the integration of all of our products a little bit as we go, and definitely keep an eye out for some future webinars later on after this one where we'll dive more specifically into some of our product categories. So anyway, I'm really excited to be here. We just announced a partnership with Alloy a couple of weeks ago. We're really excited about it here at Grandstream, and no better way to get the partnership going than to allow us to introduce ourselves to Alloy and their resellers and customers. So again, thanks for being with us, and I'll get started here. Quick overview on Grandstream. We were founded back in 2002. We were one of the original SIP manufacturers in the world. We started in 2002, 2003 with 1 and 2 line IP phones and analog telephone adapters, and here we are about 13, 14 years later, and we are now a full manufacturer and full provider of complete business communication solutions. We have, I think, somewhere around 50 different products in our portfolio right now. We're obviously most well known for our enterprise and small business IP phones, but as you'll see through the rest of the presentation, we really, we get into a lot. We're really a true SIP manufacturer, provide a lot of SIP products. We do primarily serve the small to medium business market. We have some newer products, which I'll show you as we go, that have allowed us to really get into the enterprise market, and you'll see a lot more from us on that front coming. We have a lot of new products on the horizon for this year, a lot of new stuff we're going to get into, so we're really excited about 2015 and beyond. So just to kind of wrap this slide up, as Scott mentioned, we're headquartered here in Boston, Massachusetts in the United States, which is where I'm talking to you from right now. We have 2 other offices here in the United States, as well as a variety of warehouses and local support centers across the world. And the most relevant one to you is actually not on this slide. We're in the process of putting a support center in Malaysia to give us the ability to, in addition to offering support out of China, to offer support local time zone in your local language, whatever that might be. We are one of the few companies that when you call us for support, or when you submit a support ticket, you're always talking to our engineers. You're not talking to third-party call centers or anyone we hire. It is all Grandstream engineers, and our technical support is always free. You can click through to the next slide. Pretty much everything I talked about on the last slide up on here. You see a number of the awards that we've won. We're actually a 15-time winner of Internet Telephony Magazine's Product of the Year Award. Internet Telephony is a very popular, obviously, VoIP magazine here in the United States. Also, I think we're actually now a 10-time winner of that TMC Lab Innovation Award. Some of the other awards that we've won over the years, really that have allowed us to, become the award-winning hardware manufacturer that we are today. You can click through. So, I mentioned before that we're a SIP manufacturer, and we've been in the SIP game from the very beginning. All of our products are built using the obviously the open source SIP platform. And what that allows our products to do is to really be compatible and interoperable with almost any SIP-based service on the market, whether it be third-party IP PBXs, soft switches, internet telephony service providers, the various door intercoms that you see in the lower left-hand corner, a variety of VoIP applications, services, and hardware. This is just to show that, we have tested with all of the companies that you see here and many more, actually, in terms of interoperability, to allow our devices to basically be plug and play with pretty much any service or PBX that you might be using. You can move on to the next slide. On the video surveillance side of things, we are ONVIF compliant, that logo on the top there. For those of you that might not be familiar with ONVIF, ONVIF basically an independent organization that was founded to set standards for the IP video surveillance marketplace. Standards in terms of technology, standards in terms of feature sets. And like SIP, what this allows you to, what allows us to do is to be compatible with any other ONVIF compliant IP video surveillance manufacturer. A lot of the logos and companies that you see here on the slide are very large or very popular video management software or network video recorders. Nuo, Synology, QNAP being the big ones there. You know, just a full interoperability with any ONVIF compliant systems that you may already be using or that you may look to get into in the future. We also have our own MVR and our own video management software. I'll show you that in a little bit. We can move on to the next slide. Actually, we can click through this slide too. I guess I pretty much already mentioned all of our product categories, or we'll see them as we go through. This is a slide I always like to bring up. This is really just to show you that we are and always have been a supporter of open source software and open source technology. We're not trying to build proprietary systems that only allow you to, you know, use to stay within certain parameters in terms of the products that you're, you know, deploying in your solutions. We are a full supporter of open source. Obviously, everything we make runs SIP. All of our enterprise and small business IP phones run the Linux platform. They always have, and they probably always will. We are one of the few companies, and I'll get into this in a minute, one of the few companies in the world that have brought Android into the VoIP space. With our Android IP video phones, I'll show you those a little bit later on. Truly some groundbreaking devices that you're not going to find elsewhere on the market. And you see Asterisk in the lower right there. Asterisk is basically the most popular open source IP PBX platform in the world, and our UCM series of PBXs, as you'll see a little bit later on, are all based on and run the Asterisk platform. So we'll start off with some new stuff, and actually today's a pretty exciting day for us here at Grandstream, or actually, you know, I guess it's technically for you guys, it would have been yesterday for you, that we launched the two phones that you see, or I guess the three phones that you see on the left side of the screen here, our GXP 1610 and our GXP 1620 and 1625. We just announced these phones, publicly announced them today here in the United States and worldwide. These are our new updated line of small business IP phones. The GXP 1610 is a one-line, pretty much a very basic but very easy to use IP phone. The GXP 1620 and GXP 1625 are both two-line IP phones. The difference between the models, obviously, 1610 is a one-line phone. The 1620 and 1625 are two-line phones. 1620 and 25 have the backlit LCD screen, as you see there. Both models are compliant with electronic hook switch with Plantronics headsets to allow you to wirelessly use Plantronics headsets. What else differs the model? And if you are looking for a model that supports power over Ethernet, you're going to want the 1625. And just as we get going, you'll notice that any of our phone models that end in 5, and it's basically just the small business lines, do have power over Ethernet. All of our enterprise IP phones and all of our IP video phones, actually all of our cameras too, do support PoE. So it's just in some of the small business phones that will not have it built in. 1625 is the PoE model if you're looking for a small business PoE phone. Thing on the right, and we'll touch, I have a slide on this later on that we'll touch on, is Grandstream Wave. And this is actually a pretty exciting application that we came out with. It is a 6-line, or it is a free soft phone application for Android. Currently only available for Android. It will be on iOS by the end of the year. That supports 6 different SIP accounts. So you can load 6 different SIP accounts on one free soft phone application. You're not really going to find any other free soft phone apps that are going to give you more than one account. There's a couple other great things about that app. Very easy to provision. I'll get into that, I think, later on in the webinar. So we can move on to the next slide. Two other newer products for us before we get into the full line of products are, I mentioned earlier, our network video recorder. You see it on the left-hand side there. It's our GVR 3550. As I'll show you later on, we've been in the IP video surveillance market for about 5 or 6 years. Variety of cameras and a free video management software. And we came out with our GVR 3550 tour in November of last year to give us the ability to really complete the Grandstream video surveillance solution. You now have a very affordable, very, very scalable, and I'll get into this more later on, very affordable and very scalable and also very easy to install network video recorder to kind of be that separate standalone recording and monitoring solution that doesn't slow down the rest of your network, that doesn't involve PCs or servers or whatnot. Separate standalone monitoring and recording solution. Get into that a little bit later on. And our GXV3611 IR HD. This is simply put just our new indoor infrared IP camera. A couple of cool things about it that I'll tell you a little bit, or I'll tell you later on. We can move to the next slide. All right, so now we're going to get through, run through our product portfolio, and probably could not start with a more exciting device. What you see here is our GXV3240. You'll see our GXV3275 on one of the next slides. Both of these devices are open Android IP video phones. And what I mean by open Android is we allow you full access to the Google Play Store on this phone. You're going to find other Android-based IP phones out on the market from other manufacturers. And generally what they've done is they've taken Android and they've wrapped their own interface around it. They've locked Android down so you can't take advantage of the customization aspects. You can't build your own apps. You can't download anything from the Google Play Store. And what we've done is we are truly one of the only companies in the world that offers these Android IP video phones, full access to the Google Play Store. And so why you would want access to the Google Play Store is so that you can run a variety of business productivity apps on these phones, things such as Skype, Skype for Business, which obviously used to be Microsoft Lync, Salesforce One. We're doing a webinar right now in GoToMeeting. I've attended and actually given webinars through the GoToMeeting app on my GXV3275, which is sitting right next to me right now. Kind of the way that I describe our two Android IP video phones is they're 3-in-1 devices. What we have done is we've taken an Android tablet, a 6-line IP video phone, and a video conferencing service, and we have built them all into one device. What I mean by the video conferencing is obviously you get access through Android to any of the major and the popular video conferencing applications, video calling applications available through Android, whether it be, I mentioned Skype, I mentioned there's Skype for Business, a lot of other third-party, very popular Android-based video conferencing apps to allow you to keep in touch with your contacts, with your clients, with whatever platform they might be using, while also having access to a 6-line IP video phone and all the great productivity tools that come with Android. Just a couple of things before we move on from the 3240. Both of these devices are two Android video phones, are Wi-Fi. They're both obviously have built-in PoE, built-in Bluetooth, which is great because it allows you to not only actually transfer a call from your mobile device to this phone and back, but it allows you to sync contact books, to sync your email, to sync your calendar, especially if you use Google Calendar or any of those services. Very seamless interface to, basically just allow your desk phone to keep in touch with what you or your customers are already doing. The 3240, the last bullet point you see there, it is compatible with an LCD extension module that we have. I'll mention some of the other phone that our LCD extension module works with as we go through. I think we can click on to the next slide, which is probably the 3275. So pretty much the difference between these two devices is you have the choice of either a phone with no hard keys and a 7-inch touchscreen, or you have an option with a 4.3-inch touchscreen and hard keys. Again, they're both full touchscreen phones, where the 3240 had a extension module. The 3275, and actually the 3240 as well, is compatible with an application we've built called MPK. And basically what that is it's a touchscreen BLF application for BLF speed dial, whatnot. So again, you know, the 3-in-1 device, video conferencing service, an Android tablet, and a 6-line IP phone, all built into one. Let's move on to the next slide. And I will say that you're going to see BroadSoft and potentially, I don't remember, Metaswitch and some of the other ones on these slides. The one thing I can tell you is you're only going to see BroadSoft. All of these devices, especially the IP phones, are either have been certified. We actually announced certification with Metaswitch on some of these last week, or will be. We also work very closely with a lot of other vendors. You know, your 3CX, Genesis, Genband, whatnot. So though you only see BroadSoft, you're going to see wide compatibility with most of the platforms you guys are using. So anyway, I'll try to pick up with, because we have a lot of other products to go through, so I'll try to pick up and move through these a little bit faster. So our GXP 2130, you're going to see our 2140 and 2160 next. These are our new line of enterprise IP phones. They've been on the market for about a year now. Basically what we did is we came out, we took our popular GXP line and we've updated it with these 3 new models to have built-in, or obviously a full color screen operating system, built-in Bluetooth on all this device and the next 2 that I'll show you, which allows you to transfer those calls back and forth from a mobile device to one of these phones and back. Pick up a call on your GXP 2130, transfer it to your transfer it to your mobile phone and back. Also allows you, again, to sync contact books, calendars, whatnot. Pretty much the easy way to remember the 2130, 40, and 60 is the 2130 has 3 lines. The next phone you'll see the 2144 has 4 lines. 2166 has 6 lines. Yeah, so 2130 is a really a very solid color phone, 3-line phone. Built on is 8 BLF speed dial keys built onto it, dual gigabit network ports, integrated PoE, and electronic hook switch with Plantronics headsets is pretty much standard across all of our models. You can move on to the next slide. So here we see the GXP 2140, and now you see what I mean with some of the other certifications. You see BroadSoft, Genesis, and Metaswitch here, which all of these models have been certified under. So our GXP 2140, the 4-line version of our enterprise color screen phones, the built-in Bluetooth, like I mentioned. 2140, you see the 4 SIP accounts, easy way to remember it. Just like the other model, the 2130, and the next model I'll show you, the 2160, they have the dual gigabit network ports. And our GXP 2140 is compatible with that same LCD extension module that the 3240 IP video phone was compatible with. We call it our GXP 2200 extension module. I know it's a mouthful, but for one reason or another, that's what we call it. Both of those phones can support up to 4 of those extension modules. They're LCD extension modules, dual color for BLF and for speed dial. Each module has 2 pages. Each page features 20 contacts, so if you were to combine 4 modules, you get up to 160 contacts through those extension modules. Yeah, so we can move on to the next slide. And here you see our GXP 2160. This is the, just to follow the 2130 and 2140. This is the 6-line version. As you see, this model has 24 BLF and speed dial keys built right onto the right side of it. That's kind of the thing that really distinguishes this phone, is those built-on BLF keys. Also has Bluetooth for the call transferring, for the data syncing. EHS support for Plantronics headsets, built-in power over Ethernet, gigabit ports. The 2140 and the 2160 actually also have USB ports on it in case some of your customers want to create a screensaver that, flashes their images on it, or if you want to add data to the phone, take data off. I honestly use the USB ports to charge my wireless phone sometimes. So lots of different options with that. And so that pretty much wraps up our new enterprise level IP phones, the 2160, 2140, and 2130. So we can move on to the next slide. So now I kind of talked about these already, so we can go through these next few slides pretty quickly. These are our brand new phones that we just announced today. Our GXP 1600 series, made up of the 1610 that you see here, and the 1620 and 1625 you'll see on the next slide. Our 1610 is pretty much, if you're looking for a basic IP phone that's going to allow you to make VoIP calls but is not, it's a very affordable phone that gives you pretty much all the features you need and none of the ones you don't, this is what you're looking for. It's simply put a one-line phone, see the, I think it's a 132 by 48 LCD screen. This phone does up to 2 call appearances. It has the XML programmable keys underneath the screen. Supports 3-way conferencing. This model does not support power over Ethernet, which is where we'll get into the 1625. Does have the EHS support for Plantronics headsets. And again, we launched this phone and the next 2 that you'll see today. So check out our website for a lot more information on these phones and all of our other phones. You can move on to the next slide. So here you see our 1620 and 1625. What the difference between these 2 models and the 1610 is the backlit screen. This phone has 2 lines, and this phone actually also supports HD audio, where the 1610 does not. If you're looking for a PoE model, you want the GXP 1625, as the GXP 1620 does not support built-in power over Ethernet. Just like the 1610, both of these models have the EHS, the electronic hook switch support for Plantronics headsets. They do the 3-way voice conferencing, and has that 132 by 48 backlit LCD screen. So pretty much the easiest way to think about the 1620 and the 1625, it's going to give you every feature you need and nothing you don't. And then the 1610 is pretty much that basic IP phone for lobby situations, for example, for hotels who often need a basic one-line IP phone. A lot of great uses for these small to medium-sized business IP phones that are brand new from us. You can move on to the next slide. So our GXP 1450 is, this is actually one of our, this phone's been out for a while, one of our better selling phones in our history. This is another 2-line phone from us. This has a little bit more graphical LCD screen. That's pretty much the major difference between this and the 1620 and the 1625. A little bit bigger screen. This also does 2 SIP accounts. Kind of just a different look and feel to this phone as our 1620, 1625, and 1610. This phone does have integrated power over Ethernet. We can move on. I think that pretty much, all right, so we're going to also show our GXP 1400 and 1405, which is actually, at least in my time here, pretty much one of our best-selling phones. To be completely honest with you, these models they're still going to be supported for quite a long time. They're very high-performing models, but we are moving to the 1600s to kind of not replace, but to offer a newer, enhanced version of these 1400s. So again, the 1400 is a non-PoE version. The 1405 is a PoE version. These are both 2-line phones. You see the same 3 XML programmable soft keys as you've seen on a lot of our other phones. Just like all those other small to medium-sized business phones, these do 3-way voice conferencing as well. Just a really solid small to medium-sized business home office phone. And we can switch to the next slide. So here you see our DP715 and DP710. These are our wireless decked cordless IP phones. I probably shouldn't have used the term wireless. Cordless is the more common term here. DECT, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, is just a wireless frequency that the VoIP industry has really picked up and ran with. These are simply put, these are very affordable, cordless phones. I actually have one of these on my desk, and I use it more than any other phone that I have, because I'm the kind of person that likes to be able to pick up a call and walk around or go into a conference room or whatnot. So that's, one of the great things, kind of the way that I promote these phones is it just gives you the ability to be mobile throughout your office. A couple other things you can do with these phones. Set up, so before I get into that, you see the picture at the top. The DP715 is the base unit, which you can tell has a larger, what do we want to call that? A larger resting plate. It's the middle phone there. The base unit is actually built into the base of the phone, which is why what it sits in is a little bit larger than the other 4 phones you see there, which are DP710s. So for each basically you get 5 phones in a DECT cordless system. You can put these phones throughout your office, have them set so, in case you may have a sales team or you want to put these in a warehouse where if one phone rings and it doesn't answer, it can ring the next phone or it can ring all the phones at the same time. That's what I mean by the ring group, hunt group feature. These are also great consumer phones, very affordable wireless VoIP phones. Again, up to 5 handsets per base unit. The range you see on the screen there, up to 50 meters indoors and up to 300 meters outdoors. They do 3-way conferencing. You can put up to 4 different accounts on a 5-phone system. Again, just to wrap up these cordless IP phones, the ability to be mobile throughout your office and really the ability to, make sure that wherever you are in your office or your home, that you're always going to hear a call and somebody's always going to be able to pick it up. So we can move on to the next slide. I mentioned this earlier, so we can fly through this real fast. Our GXP 2200 extension module, which works with the GXP 2140, our 4-line enterprise IP phone, and our GXP 3240, which is one of our Android-based IP video phone. Do apologize if I am stumbling over my words every now and then. As I was telling Scott before, there's some, it's getting warm here, so everyone's starting to get sick, or flu's going around, and I'm just getting over it. So do apologize for that. But so yeah, pretty much an LCD-based extension module. So now we get into our line of VoIP gateways, whether it be FXS gateways or FXO gateways. We've had our gateways on the market for, I want to say, somewhere between 8 and 10 years. They're some of the most established and some of the most used gateways on the market. You see some of the features here. This is our GXW 4004 and 4008. These are obviously FXS gateways. You have the choice of the 4 ports or the 8 ports. Multiple different SIP profiles, the ability to auto-provision these gateways in a variety of different ways. And these gateways are going to support pretty much all the telephony features that our phones support in terms of the conferencing, hold, transfer, all of those different kinds of VoIP features are going to be fully supported. You see BroadSoft and Metaswitch down there on the bottom. We actually also signed a partnership with ShoreTel, who I know is popular in the Asia-Pacific region, to have all of our gateways tested and certified with their VoIP platforms. So we can move on to the next slide, which I believe our so here we go, our GXW 4104 and 4108. These are FXO gateways, pretty much the same, as the previous model, just FXO instead of FXS. Here we have 8 or 4 port models. Again, the same thing in terms of multiple SIP profiles, a lot of auto provisioning options, and interoperability with pretty much all of the major SIP-based platforms out on the market. Can move on to the next slide. So here we see our newer series, our most recent series of gateways. These are FXS gateway. These are high-density FXS gateways. So whereas previously we were showing you 4 and 8 port gateways, good for, smaller deployments or, smaller specific areas in an office, now we have higher density gateways going up all the way to 48 ports. Same features in addition to that, the multiple SIP profiles, the ability to provision these through a lot of different ways, including zero configuration with our UCM series of PBXs, which I'll get into. This new series, our 4200 series of FXS gateways, does support full gigabit network ports. The 2 previous ones that you saw will go up to 100 megabits per second, whereas these are full gigabit gateways. Also, they're rack mountable, which, for some people is a big deal. The ability to put it in with other servers, other gateways that you may already have installed in an office. We can move on to the next slide. So now we get into our analog telephone adapters. And I mentioned earlier, these were some of the first products that we ever came out with. This is initially what we got into the SIP marketplace for. And I can tell you now that we have actually become one of the largest, if not possibly the largest supplier of analog telephone adapters in the world. A lot of different major service providers, pretty much in all corners of the globe, are using, are recommending, are actually purchasing Grandstream analog telephone adapters. So it starts off here with our HT500 series, which is available as the 502, which has 2 FXS ports, or the HT503, which has 1 FXS port and 1 FXO port. A lot of the same options, or a lot of the same configuration settings as the gateways in terms of, you see 2 SIP profiles supported here, auto provisioning through a lot of different methods, again including that zero configuration with our own PBX, which we'll get into in a little bit. We can move on to the next slide. So here you see our more recent, our newer series of ATAs, our HT700 series. Our HT701, which has 1 FXS port, the HT702 has 2 FXS ports, and the HT704 has 4 FXS ports. So again, this is obviously if you're looking to maintain use of an existing analog phone that you may have, but give it, a SIP connection, these analog telephone adapters, some of the gateways are great for that. Our HT700 series is actually an award-winning series of products. You're going to see these all over the place. Again, we are one of the leading manufacturers, one of the leading providers of analog telephone adapters in the world today. And we can move on. All right, so that takes us pretty much, except for the PBXs, which we'll wrap up with in a little bit, that takes us through our VoIP offerings. So now we're going to get into our IP video surveillance offerings. And we got into the IP video surveillance marketplace about 6-7 years ago. And one of the things that has allowed us to so easily and so honestly so seamlessly transition and offer a full line of IP video cameras is because these cameras run basically the same SIP stack for basically the same SIP technology as our IP phones do. So what that allows you to do, or as an installer to do, is to set up, configure these cameras basically the same way through a web user interface that you would any IP phone, to give them the same network settings, the same, pretty much set up a camera the same way you would a phone. We'll get into this a little bit later on. Because these are SIP cameras, one of the best things you can do, and one thing that we're always a huge proponent of, is registering your SIP cameras to your IP PBX. Gives the cameras not only the ability to record and monitor, but by giving it a SIP extension, allows it to proactively alert you in a variety of ways when security alert occurs. For example, all of our cameras can make video calls or voice calls to any IP video phone or IP voice phone, or even any phone number basically, when a security alarm, for example, motion detection occurs. The cameras can also send you email screenshots. They can immediately start uploading the recordings to certain locations. All of our cameras also have either a built-in speaker or microphone, and I'll mention this as we go through, or they have audio input and audio output to allow you to go out to existing intercom or speakers that may be around there, or to actually speak through the camera. So for example, you could pick up a SIP phone, just call the extension of any of these cameras. Literally just call a 3-digit or a 4-digit extension and either see or hear the live feed of the camera, and then also be able to talk through the camera. Basically use it as an intercom, a little intercom. Great for warehouses, backdoor entrances, for homes, what have you. And obviously, I could talk about that stuff for days. So I think Scott mentioned there's another surveillance webinar coming up, so we'll go into more detail on that. So just to talk about what you see here on the slide, our GXV3672. This is an outdoor infrared bullet camera, available in 2 different models. One with a 3.6 millimeter lens, good for wider angle close to the camera, and another with an 8 millimeter lens, which is better for more distant applications like a parking lot. You see the infrared lights on the screen. This camera is built with an IP66 certified weatherproof casing, which just allows it to be used outside in pretty much any weather setting without having to worry about the camera itself. You can move on to the next slide. Our GXV3674, and you're going to see pretty much all of our cameras are available. You'll see HD/FHD. That's just telling you that these are available as both a 720p model and a full HD 1080p model. So our GXV3674 follows on the previous model that I showed you, built with that IP66 certified weatherproof casing. Infrared lights right on the front allows it to obviously monitor in low light or no light settings because of that. The easiest way to remember our 3674 is it is pretty much the most easily adjustable variable focal camera that we have. And what I mean by that, variable focal, you can adjust the lens of this camera from anywhere from 2.8 millimeters up to 12 millimeters. And that's pretty much, for the most part, that's the full spectrum of wide angle close to the camera to more distant. Allows this one camera to be moved around to change what you're, or if it's staying in one location to change what you might be monitoring, and you can adjust that lens just by changing or by moving the 2 knobs that are right below the face of the camera. You can kind of see it in that top left picture. Very easily adjustable variable focal camera, infrared lights, and weatherproof casing. And we can move on to the next slide. Our GXV3610, again, FHD are available as a HD model and a full HD model. This follows in the footsteps of the previous models that you've seen. Also has infrared lights. You'll pretty much see infrared is pretty much becoming standard across the surveillance marketplace. Pretty much anybody doing a surveillance install anymore is going to want the ability to monitor 24 hours a day and in any light setting. So we find that infrared is a pretty standard requirement anymore. This 3610 has a 3.6 millimeter lens, makes it great for wide angle close to the camera. This camera actually has a built-in microphone, which means you could then obviously connect the audio out to a speaker to allow you to have a conversation through this camera with somebody that might be near it very easily. Yeah, we move on to the next slide. Here's our GXV3662. This is currently our longest running model. It's been out for, I think, 5 or 6 years. One of our sturdiest models, too. We promote this as being a vandal-proof, tamper-proof, and weatherproof camera. It is nearly indestructible. You could practically beat this thing up with a baseball bat, run it over with a car, and nothing would happen to it. This is also made with the weatherproof casing, so you can use it in any outdoor or indoor setting. Has built-in IR cut, which basically is a technology that's almost similar to infrared, allows it to see well in low light or no light. One thing that I should have mentioned previously, which I did not, is that all of our cameras, every single one has integrated power over Ethernet, which is simply great because you can use one cord to both power the camera and to give it a network connection. Again, every one of our cameras has built-in power over Ethernet. This camera also is a variable focal camera like the 3674, which means you can adjust the lens. This one can be adjusted from 3.3 millimeters up to 12 millimeters, pretty much the full range of the spectrum from close up to more distant. And with this model, to adjust that, you would actually have to take the top off of it, open up the lens like you see there to do the adjustments. So we can move on. Now we get to our 3611 IR HD, and unlike the other models that you've seen, the other 4 models you've seen up to this point, this is a indoor camera, not made for outdoor use. This basically follows up our GXV 3611 HD, which was the previous model, for those of you that may have been with us for a little while. A couple of cool things about this camera. This is the camera that we most outwardly promote, has built-in speaker and microphone. You can see the the microphone is right above the lens, and the speaker is to the left and to the right of the Grandstream text on the device. So you can literally use this camera as an intercom, great for warehouse entrances or whatnot, pick it up. Call somebody if somebody, might be trying to get into the warehouse to make a delivery or whatnot. Another mini solution you could set up is have this or any of our cameras set up for motion detection, put it by a door. When the camera detects somebody's there, it will make a video call to you, and you can then let that person in by seeing, obviously, right on your video phone screen who is there. Another cool thing about this camera, it has a built-in SD card slot, which allows you to use this basically as a local recording solution in case you need to put a camera in a location where you might not have a network connection available. Pop in SD card, have the camera have all the recordings go back to the SD card slot, and just take out that SD card and back it up every now and then. There you have a full local recording solution. So to wrap this one up, indoor camera, infrared lights, 2.8 millimeter lens, good for wide angle close to the camera. We can move on, and I realize we're getting short on time here, so I will pick it up for the rest of the time. Our GXV 3500, this is an award-winning product, an encoder, decoder, and public address system functionality built into this. So this is a device that you would use if you want to add an analog camera to an IP network, if you want to add an IP camera to an analog network, or if you want to set up a public address system through your video surveillance solution. This also gives you the ability to do that. Fully OMVIF compliant, so it'll work with other OMVIF compliant cameras as well. We can move on. So here's our GVR 3550, and this is pretty much what I call the anchor to our IP video surveillance solution. This is a very affordable, very scalable network video recorder that is very easy to install. It features auto discovery of Grandstream It features auto discovery of OMVIF cameras, including ours, obviously. So as soon as you were to plug this into a network that you already have cameras plugged into, this will automatically pick it up. You just click next to each one, and you can automatically start recording and monitoring right from there. You're obviously going to want to set your own recording rules for that. So I talked about scalable before. This, one of the greatest things about this is when you look at other network video recorders in the small to medium-sized business marketplace, and what I mean by that is generally 16 to 32 cameras, somewhere in there. You're going to find that our GVR 3550 offers more storage capacity than pretty much any other NVR in that class. It features up to 16 terabytes of built-in storage from up to 4 hard drives. The one thing that's important to say here is that we do not sell the hard drives. The NVR does not come with hard drives, and we've done that purposely. The reason why we've done that is because this NVR, and you can find out what it costs from Alloy, is such an affordable NVR that it can really be scaled from you know, if you're using it for 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras, like in a home or in a really small business, all the way up to 24 cameras. And so what we're doing by not including the hard drives is we're allowing you to basically, you know, customize each one of these for whatever you're using it for, and not have to spend more than you're going to want and need to, only buy the amount of hard drives and the amount of storage space that you need. So again, it supports up to 24 cameras for live recording. It does up to 16 channels of live view, very easily set up through a web user interface and through the interface of the product. Pretty much the completion of Grandstream's video, or the anchor of our IP video surveillance products, giving you the ability to have that separate standalone recording and monitoring device. And we can move on. So now I think looks like we're finishing up here by getting into our IP PBXs, and this is where, in my opinion, everything really starts to come together in terms of the solution orientation. So we came out with our UCM series of IP PBXs about 2 years ago at this point. And basically what we've done is we have taken all of the enterprise-grade features that any business is going to want, and we have packaged them in a very high quality, very secure and reliable IP PBX that is designed specifically for small to medium-sized businesses. You can move on to the next slide, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean by enterprise-grade features. And yeah, so you see our three models here. Or excuse me. So the easiest way to kind of explain these is our UCM 6100, which is made up of 4 different models. The 4 that you see at the top of the screen, that is an SMB level IP PBX. What you see at the bottom of the screen, our UCM 6510, that is a more enterprise-grade IP PBX. And I'll differentiate these for you as we go through these next couple of slides. As you can see, these are award-winning products. Have won these. The 6100 won the 2014 Internet Telephony Product of the Year Award. And what you'll see once we move past this, the 6510 won this year's Internet Telephony Product of the Year Award. So basically what we've done is we've taken those enterprise-grade features, the features that are traditionally only available for smaller to medium-sized businesses through very expensive systems for thousands of users. We've taken all of those features, your IVRs, your call queues, your customizable call routing, your support for video, your support for mobile workers, your soft phone applications, your CVR, your system backup, your email forwarding. Pretty much, I mean, I could go on for a long time about all of the features, and I'm sure we'll have another webinar about all of the features that this product has. And it is geared for small to medium-sized businesses in terms that it's made to support up to 500 endpoints, so 500 users with up to 60 concurrent calls. But the best part about this, there are no licensing fees, and there never will be licensing fees. It's the one-time upfront purchase price of the product. It allows you full customization of a SIP voice, video, data, and mobility network. With no licensing fees. We are pretty much every 2 or 3 months coming out with firmware updates for our 6100 series and the 6510 that adds features and adds functionality, and those firmware upgrades are always free as well. We're doing a lot of trainings for these devices around the world. We've seen a lot of traction. It's become one of the more popular on-premise IP PBXs in the world. What you see on the bottom there, the zero, in addition to no licensing fees, zero configuration. This is a feature that's on both of these, on all of our UCM models. It's a feature that allows you to basically configure thousands of Grandstream endpoints just a couple of seconds with a couple of clicks of the mouse, by either providing a general set of rules that you want the system to apply to all the devices, or by basically allowing the UCM to set its own extension numbers and whatnot. And again, the zero configuration feature, it currently only works with Grandstream products, but allows you to really provision a large amount, thousands of devices at a time with just a couple of clicks of the mouse. So you saw our 6100 series, which is made for up to 500 users and up to 60 concurrent calls. Our 6510 features the same exact user interface, the same exact feature set for the most part, except this is made to support up to 2,000 users and up to 200 concurrent calls. It says up to 50 SIP trunk accounts on there. It's actually unlimited SIP trunk accounts. Another thing that we've added to the 6510 that differentiates it from the 6100 series is that top bullet point, the support for the E1, T1, and J1 networks. Yeah, that's pretty much, you know, the main point that we're trying to get through here. 6510, an enterprise-grade IPPBX for up to 2,000 users. Our 6100 series is an SMB-level IPPBX for up to 500 users. Zero configuration, provisioning, and no licensing fees on every UCM model. This is just really just to show you real fast. We use this to kind of introduce a lot of the features that it has, and I'm sure we'll go into this more on other webinars. This is just literally a very basic look at some of the features that it has. It goes into a lot more detail than just that. We can move on to the next slide. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything. This just wraps up the UCM series. Pretty much everything I talked about. You know, those high level, all the features that any business is going to want and they're going to need to compete today. Packaged in an easy to manage, very small PBX designed either for the SMB or the enterprise market with no licensing fees at all at any point. Very easy, fast and easy setup and management with zero configuration. And all hardware and software included, in addition to future upgrades. And we can move on, and yeah, this, you know, just to kind of wrap up, I won't really go into too much detail on this slide. If you're interested in the differentiation between our 4 UCM 6100 series models, again, those are the SMB models, pretty much just differs on the amount of concurrent calls and FXO ports. You see that on bullet 2 there. So the 6102 has 2 FXO ports and support for up to 30 concurrent calls. Goes all the way up to our 6116, which has 16 FXO ports and up to 60 concurrent calls. And we can move to the next slide. I believe we're pretty much wrapping up here. Only a couple of slides left. This is just a quick couple of pictures, screenshots of the web user interface for the product. Basically what we've done is we've taken that very popular Asterisk platform and we've just wrapped our own user interface around it, which also has tooltips built into it to allow you to kind of, you know, in case you might get to a field you're not familiar with or you're not sure what to do with, our tooltips can kind of explain best practices for that field, what you should use that field for, what it does. And we can move on. So I mentioned Grandstream Wave earlier. The reason why we have it here after the UCM series, and I believe this is probably one of the last slides we have, just for those of you wondering when this is going to end. Grandstream Wave, again, it's a free soft phone application for Android, will be available for iOS later in the year. Supports up to 6 SIP accounts and 6-way audio conferencing. Again, this is a free app. You're not going to find really any other free soft phone app that's going to offer you all of those. It has a built-in BLF and speed dial page within the app. And pretty much the best feature about it when talking about our UCM series is our UCM series of PBXs is able to create a barcode based on a user's SIP account information. That barcode can be emailed to the specific user, and they can scan that barcode within Grandstream Wave to automatically and right away configure their soft phone app with their SIP account simply by scanning a QR code, literally as easy as it gets. And we can move on. Yeah, all right, so we're through with the products. I think this is the last slide we have for you before we wrap it up. Always like to mention, especially you know, to some people that might be new to us, check out our Reseller Connect program. This is our free reseller program. Again, it's free. There's no requirements. There's no cost to join. And basically what you're going to get out of joining Reseller Connect, it's a whole portal off of our website that's going to give you, excuse me, a lot of information that you're basically not going to have access to without being a member. Exclusive product webinars and product trainings just for Reseller Connect members, advanced notification of products or of firmware upgrades or of certifications, access to pictures, graphics, data sheets that you may want to use to promote our products with your customers, news updates, announcements, specific firmware updates just for reseller members, and obviously that qualification as a GrandStream certified reseller that you can use on business cards, on your website, what have you. So definitely check that out. It's our reseller program that we call Reseller Connect. I believe you can get to it just by going to grandstream.com/ or resellerconnect.grandstream.com. That's what it is. It's resellerconnect.grandstream.com. And we can move on. And yeah, so here we are at the Q&A. I do appreciate everybody bearing with me. We obviously have a lot of products, a lot of really cool stuff that we could have gone through. I could obviously talk for days about this stuff. So yeah, I appreciate your time and the attention, and now we'll take any questions that come in or that you may have.
All right, thank you very much for that, Phil. Okay, guys, just before we do move on to the Q&A, as Phil did mention during the webinar, we actually do have another webinar scheduled for the 23rd of April, and this webinar will focus purely on the IP surveillance products. It'll be an in-depth look at at GrandStream's IP surveillance products. So if you are interested, please do register on the Alloy website for that upcoming webinar. Okay, guys, so questions. If you do have any questions, please raise your hand. Okay, we've got our first one here from Alariza. Let me just quickly unmute you, and you can fire away. Are you there, Alariza? Okay, not working for some reason. Let me move on the list. Okay, so we just had a message coming through from Alariza who doesn't have a mic, so I'll quickly just ask the question, or read out the question that they've asked. We have good home users base market who are looking to use the 3275s and 3240 phones in their homes or offices and make a call with their PSTN line, also use this phone for Skype or Viber apps, etc. Do you have a solution to simply convert PSTN lines to SIP accounts?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. As a marketing guy, that question might be a little bit over my head.
Okay, I'll answer that one.
Okay.
So the only real way that you're going to be able to add PSTN functionality to those phones is via a PBX.
That's yeah.
So the PBX, you'll have to register the IP phones to the PBX, and the PBX also obviously come with FXO ports, so you can plug your PSTN lines into the FXO ports on the PBX, register your phones to the PBX. They can all talk to each other internally. They can also obviously use video through the PBX and also be able to receive and make PSTN calls via that PBX as well.
There you go.
Hope
Definitely.
That answers the question okay? All right, moving down the list. Let's see if there's any more questions. All right, nobody raising their hands. If you don't want to ask by audio, please feel free to type some questions. Okay, another one here from Warren Lee, long-time GrandStream fan. What are the recommended ISN basic rate gateways supported by the GrandStream ECM 6100s? Okay, so Phil, I know that in the US, basic rate ISN is not used at all, and GrandStream don't have a solution for basic rate ISN at this point. So Alloy does have a variety of different products. We have the patent products, we have the Epigee products that all have basic rate ISN capability. They're all SIP based, so there's no reason why they wouldn't work with the UCM products as well.
Certainly. And those two brands that you mentioned, we've worked closely with in the past, so you should have no compatibility issues with using. We mentioned Patent, and I forget the other brand.
Epigee as well.
Epigee, yeah, there you go.
Yep. Okay, another question from Denise, I think it is. The switch has two PSTN lines. Does it fail over from an IP call to PSTN in case of internet problems? Now, I'm assuming it does there, Phil.
I'm sorry, could you read that again?
Okay, so with the UCM 6102 that has the two PSTN lines or two FXO lines, if
Sure.
if you're using a SIP account and the SIP account becomes unregistered or you lose internet connectivity, the call will fail over and go out via the FXO ports.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yep.
And you can, obviously, when you program it, you can choose what would be that failover line or the multiple failover lines. A lot of different options in terms of that.
Yeah, you can either do it like if the line's not available because it's busy or whether it's actually deregistered. There's certain failover rules that you can set before it does fail over to the PSTN lines. Okay, so another question here from Alariza. We can't install some of apps like Viber on Android phones. Is there a limitation on that regard? Okay, so with the Grandstream phones, they've now unlocked it, so you can basically install any application. I have had one instance where, because if you guys aren't aware, we sell a video conferencing product called Video, and we did have a few issues running that application on the Grandstream phones, basically because of the way Video called for the camera and used the camera on the Android. But we are working with Grandstream on that issue at the moment, which will hopefully resolve. So I'm sure there's no issues with Viber, is there, Phil?
Not any issues with Viber that I'm familiar with. If you do, if you do have any issues with any of these specific apps, I would definitely encourage you to file a technical support ticket or just send an email to our technical support team and let us know. Obviously one of the challenges with the millions of apps is we go through on basically a daily basis and optimize our phone to work with a lot of these apps. So a lot of times if there's something that's not working, it's very easily fixed through a firmware upgrade. So if there are any apps, not familiar with any problems with Viber, if you are having any issues, definitely let us know, and there should be a very easy solution for it.
All right, thanks, Phil. All right, another question from Warren. Is there a recommended iOS equivalent of the Grandstream Wave app, like 3CX have? So as Phil did mention during the presentation, they will be releasing the Grandstream Wave for iOS, but not until later in the year. And at this point, I suppose the only thing you can do is use 3CX or an equivalent application.
Yeah, you could always use, Bria, but you do have to pay for Bria. 3CX is a pretty good, and I believe it's a free app. I've actually used it before. It's a pretty good app.
Yep. All right, guys, any other questions before we wrap up? Okay, looks like no more questions. All right, guys, thank you very much. Phil, thank you very much for your time. I know it's getting late there now, so you can jump off and go to bed.
No worries, Scott. Thanks for having me, and we're looking forward to doing some more of these with you guys.
All right, guys, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar. And like I said earlier on, if you are interested in the IP video surveillance products, go to the LA website and register for the upcoming webinar on the 23rd of April. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone. Bye.